been asked by one of my academy students to talk about how to draw legs, what's involved with legs. So, here we go. To begin with the skeleton, we know legs are an extension of the hips, pelvis. It's called the femur, tibia, and then feet. So, of course, there's more body, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So, essentially what we're talking about with the tibia, or the femur, rather, the most common mistake I've seen people make. Now, here's the tibia, femur, like so. It has a big knot at the end, which is essentially like a cylinder. And then the bone comes off and goes up like that. Now, when the leg's extended, and the tibia, it's like so, and then the foot, then these are in line, like so. So, the common mistake that people make when they're drawing the leg is that when they bend the knee, they bend it like so. So when you bend the knee, it's not exactly like bending a piece of paper. It doesn't bend at a hinge that is at the kneecap. What happens is that this cylinder, the cylinder that would be here when it's extended, the leg is extended, comes completely underneath to here, like so. So in a side view, here's the femur. It slides around from here to here. Now, you would think that that's a fairly obvious thing, but you wouldn't believe how many artists don't adhere to this. Now, to follow through with that side view, now the kneecap is a small detail, but here we are again in the side view. The thing about the kneecap is attached to the tibia, not the femur. There's a little strip of tissue with the kneecap on it, like so. So when the lower leg kicks up, this automatically slides around on top. It tends to protect the delicate area here. That's usually, you can live without your kneecap, but that area is filled with a liquid sort of padding. So, now another thing about legs, now this is a side view. In a sense, femur, tibia, foot. In a sense, what happens is that when a figure squats down, the upper and lower legs basically scissor, in a sense, like that. So, they'll bend like so for squatting, and for a complete squat, like so. Now that might seem fairly obvious, but it's important that they act along tiptoe. See, this line of gravity. So that's one way to think about it. Here's another way. When the leg is, let me make that a little smaller. When the leg is straight down, like so, the support is in a straight line, obviously directly underneath. Now if the figure is hunching or squatting a little bit, then the limbs will either bend forward or backward. If they bend forward, in a sense, it's like a triangle, which is a stable form. So when a leg bends like this, like so, it's in essence acting sort of like part of a triangle, and then the other leg can pick up the other side of the triangle, and that creates support. Now also, here's the hips, here's a cantilever in effect, that happens. That's the femur, that's the tibia, that's the foot. Now when the foot strikes the ground, force travels up, then it goes off to one side, and then into the hips, and then eventually to the sacrum, and up the spine. That's how energy is distributed. So when you jump off a step, your leg doesn't break, which would happen otherwise. But this line, this is where the hamstrings are. They connect to the bottom of the pelvis, to these knobs, which are in your butt. So, and also, when the force travels up here, this is a weak spot. That's why people's hips break when they get old and frail. They break right there, because that is a V shape. It's a more vulnerable, delicate area. So, next thing to think about is the leg in 3 dimensions, in cylinders. Now, when people learn to draw figures, they tend to draw them straight on. And the reason that, where even if the limbs are bent, even if things are bent, basically everything is always the same length. So even with, and this is all right because this is the way that you learn. So you learn what all the various lengths are. But with foreshortening, that's not so. So here's a figure that's foreshortened. That's a hand. That's a hand. See? Though the same thing is true of legs. Now if a leg is pulled up, and then the knee is here and the other one is there, the leg is here, then obviously that is extreme foreshortening. And in order to do that, you need to use cylinders or blocky shapes you could use if you wanted to. So here's an upper leg, here's a lower leg, and there is the kneecap. And as I hinted at earlier, the main mistake that people make, another mistake, is that when they draw limbs, oh okay, here's a leg, here's a foot, and it's like, okay, well, is this bang on to us? Is this absolutely straight on to our line of sight? You know what the chances are of something being absolutely perpendicular to your line of sight are in nature? It's almost zero. So what happens when people draw like this is that you don't know where the horizon line is, you don't know how anything is turned, nothing is turned. So objects lack solidity. So in this case, if you put in cylinders, then at least you know, oh, well this is turning this way, and this might be turning that way. Using cylinders and lines around, you don't have to include them in your final drawing, but that's another reason why comic book artists, superhero artists, have a lot of rings and things around the costumes. It's to help them to establish depth. So here are some legs where I am endeavoring to show them as cylinders. See? And now you're clear on which way they're going. This one is coming toward us, and so is this. These are both going away. So, now there's more to it than that, because they relate to, legs relate to the entire figure. It's hard to kind of isolate the figure and just discuss one part. Okay. So legs work with everything else. That's all for now.